Welcome, seekers of the unknown, as we pull back the veil between the living and beyond. Unraveling questions that plague our minds, and oftentimes presenting the evidence that may prove them true. Let us take you on a journey where paranormal becomes normal, and where what is right behind you just might be echoes of the afterlife or something more. But fair warning, once you step into the supernatural with us, you might just stay haunted.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, we're by ourselves today. Well, not really by ourselves, but.
As you notice that we are Dos Cocos. First of all, happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Cinco de Mayo. And the funny thing is, so today's Cinco de Mayo, and you know what episode this is? Which one? Cinco. Now, do you think Chris planned this during when he thought of a start date for the podcast?
Maybe.
We'll have to ask him.
Maybe.
So we, as you notice, it's just Dos Cocos this evening. Chris and Audra are officially new residents of Ohio. They closed this morning, so we do miss them. They should be back next week. If not, you get another week of Dos Cocos. So we're excited to host the show tonight, and we got a really special guest tonight. Before we get to our guest, how was your weekend? Normally we would ask Chris and Audra. I'm going to ask you, how was your weekend? What did you do?
I was with you at Tala.
Anything exciting happen?
He got hit by a bat.
If you haven't seen it, we spent the weekend with Parasite Experience, Frankie, Jenny, the whole crew.
Anthony,
our normal crew.
Parasite.
So, and if you see me like a chicken without a head, that's because I'm scrambling around looking at things. So, hey there, Miss Jenny. Hello to everybody in chat. We're just getting a feel of, so we're solo virgins.
Oh, yeah.
Hosts.
Mm-hmm. We're solo virgins.
Solo virgins. I don't know if that's possible.
Anything's possible.
But yeah, we appreciate everybody coming in tonight and hopping on.
Here, they said this.
What'd they say?
Well, no, I don't know what I'm doing. He did scream like a girl.
Yes, I did. I wasn't sure if I was going to share that video clip, but if you haven't seen it, you can go to Facebook, and it's quite amusing. I never thought I could scream that high-pitched.
Come on, man. Please tell me someone got that EVP.
Oh, we do.
Oh no, it's on film. If you go to my if you go to my Facebook page, it posted it, and it's.
I'm gonna go over there right now on my phone. Watch.
That's funny.
I gotta see this one.
So it was. We had a great experience. Tala, for those of you that have not been there before, it is a definite bucket list location to visit. It was a private. We just we have a lot of footage that we need to go through and review. So once we get that, we'll start sharing some of those
clips.
So, anything else? No?
I don't think so.
Should we get to our guest?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read his bio if I can find it. I had it up, but then my phone decided to do other things. So, where is it?
Let's just bring him on.
Hold on. I got it. All right. I found it.
Bring him on.
All right. So our guest this evening is Andy Andrews. He has 37 years investigating the paranormal, cryptids, and the unexplained. He is the founder of Vapor Paranormal, Valley Agency of Paranormal Research. Originally started in Virginia, and now he has a location based in Pennsylvania. He started investigating he was, and it keeps disappearing on me. He was raised in Virginia besides the Cedar Creek Battlefield, where he experienced paranormal at the age of 3 and started seriously investigating at the age of 14. So since the age of 16, he began speaking at paranormal events. So he keeps disappearing on me.
All right, just bring him on.
I'm going to bring him on so he can kind of explain the rest and let him go into his history. So what's that? So we're going to bring Andy on.
Welcome, Andy.
Woo, there he is. Welcome, Andy.
God, you can't
Can
miss
you
this.
tell the newbies?
Yeah, but we all start somewhere. I was doing it as well not too long ago, and I was the same way. I would get lost the whole time when we were on there. But
I hear you. First of all, thank you very much for being a guest on the show. I know Chris and Audra send their regards and wish they could be here to join in on the fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to it. So why don't we tell a little bit? You started before my intro, your history, your bio disappeared on me. I know. Listen, you're Vapor founder. You're the manager at Ghost City Tours in Gettysburg. So with that, just go a little bit. Tell some of our guests that may not know you or familiar with you. Just give a little bit of your background and your history and kind of the part that I started to share with you.
Yeah, I grew up in Virginia, a little town called Strasburg, real close to Winchester, Virginia, which is a really historical town. A lot of Civil War ties there. Cedar Creek Battlefield was practically in my backyard. Actually, honestly, the woods behind my house was actually a Confederate ammunition dump. But I grew up right beside my grandparents, and my grandfather would come home from work like 4 a.m, and I was on the end of the house that the big floodlight would flood the room of light and stuff. So I'd always stick my head, up to the window and look, and would start to see. The best way to describe it is like figures walking right on the outside of the light where you couldn't see it. So I'd wake up the house and, tell them, I was only 4 years old.
Right.
And telling them that, I thought it was somebody getting ready to break in the house or, anything like that. But and my grandmother, she is now 104 years old and still can have walk and everything else. But she's been used for her abilities, her gifts by the local police department. Actually, the local FBI had her about 6 years ago work on a cold case with a couple other actual psychics, and they actually solved it. They figured it out. But
wow,
a little bit of that got passed down to me. I'm not I don't see dead people and stuff like that, but I do. And maybe, back then, maybe I could do that. Maybe that's what I was seeing. I don't know. But, my parents, they didn't accept the fact that I could have gotten some things, sent down the line in the, genealogy there, and found out great-great-grandfather was used actually as well for his abilities. So, I still have some. I'm kind of getting back into actually allowing things to come through. I kind of pushed it away for a while just because, the parents took me to doctors and psychiatrists one time and had all these funky tests done to me and, trying to figure it out. So I kind of got a little worried about it, or, I guess it kind of scared it out of me, to be honest. And that's kind of how I got back into the paranormal was, a little bit later in life, around 13, my parents had a membership to a private camping resort. And I ended up meeting another guy that lived in actually Fredericksburg, Virginia. and his house was hi Whitney. Um, his house was used as an officer's quarters during the battle at Fredericksburg.
Okay.
So obviously he was having a lot of paranormal activity going on.
Can't even imagine.
So that kind of bonded him and I together. You know, whenever we'd camp and stuff near each other, we would always get together and go walking or something. We ended up about 14 when I bought a cassette player, like one of those old ones that you had to push record and play at the same time. And, you know, and we took it in a house that was not too far away from us and put it in there and recorded. And sure enough, man, when we got back and started listening to it, it had voices on it. And this house was like completely unlivable. And so that freaked us out a little bit, but it also got us curious. So as I got older, I realized a lot of people had hauntings. They were afraid to tell people. So that's really what got me into it, was just making sure that people had a voice, you know, like they knew that somebody would listen and help them out if they could. And that's what got me going. And that's taken me the trip that I've been on now for quite a while. So, you know.
So quick question. So with your grandmother, with her abilities, now I know you said you had a little bit, or you had the experiences at a younger age, and then you kind of pushed it away or whatever. So did they, with back then, I guess your grandmother, so when you had those experiences, did they believe you, or did they just kind of, you know, I know you said they took you to doctors and stuff, but did your grandmother believe you back then? I mean,
yeah. And I think my mom did too. I think it was more my dad pushing the situation at the time because he didn't accept. You know, I mean, he always talked about. He was more of a cryptid guy, which really surprised me. He had a Bigfoot sighting when I was real young, and you couldn't get him to talk about it. Him and my grandfather were together, so both of them saw something down in Tennessee, and along with like 12 other people. Yeah. So,
I mean, that's
a lot.
Yeah. I guess we were traveling across we did a lot of camping when I was younger, and we were following them, pulling campers, my grandparents, and everybody was stopped on the side of the Blue Ridge Parkway and looking over the bank, and they got out to check. You know, they thought it was a car wreck or something. And I just remember getting back in the car. I woke up after the car stopped, and when they came back, I remember my dad was walking pretty quick, and he got in, and my mom said, "What's going on?"
And it wasn't because, I'm sure it wasn't because he had to go to, well, maybe he did have to go to the bathroom. I was going to say, maybe he had to go to the bathroom.
He already had at that point. You know what I mean? But
he may have had to run to the bathroom.
Pretty much what he told me was that what bothered him the most was the ability that the thing had to go up like the side of a hollow. He said it would take us, probably 15, 20 minutes to get to the top of. Took this thing. He kept calling it a thing. He never would say Bigfoot. He never would. Yeah. But also he talked about how big it was and the muscles, like you could see the muscles, he said.
You can see the muscle definition. That's wild.
Yeah, he just said, I realized then that I would never, or no one standing here would have had a chance if it would have turned on him. And I think that bothered him because he worked the same job, man, from like 17 up. And he worked at a lime plant, so he was a supervisor. He'd have to go out and check gauges and stuff that were like out in the middle of the woods and stuff like that where he worked at. And I think that stuck in his mind quite a bit. But also right where he worked at, Cedar Creek Battle happened right across the creek from Cedar Creek from where he worked at. And he would tell me about like phantom cannons, phantom gunshots at night and stuff like that. So he wasn't a disbeliever. He just couldn't believe that I was seeing things. And, I think it was his way of trying to get it not to happen because it scared him more than I think it did anybody else. And then when I was old enough to kind of tell him, I know what's going on, and grandmother, she stepped in because she's a firecracker. And 104, I think she just refuses to go anywhere else. I was saying that, like, they're afraid she'll take over up there is what it is. But yeah, so I mean, always had some kind of support behind me with this. And she's explained a lot to me over the years, my grandmother, and then meeting, guys like you all and other people that are very open to listening to things. And, and I still, man, even after all these years, I still just sit and listen to people, because everybody
conversations. Yep.
Yeah, everybody has their own, everybody's got gifts, even if it's not psychic or, anything like that. Somebody, some people got gifts on how to use the equipment or how to make the equipment.
Right.
So, and I was lucky because I traveled with a band playing music for about 10 years all over the United States. And I would always find like the most haunted place wherever we were staying at, to go check out. So that's how I got to really be able to hit some of the bigger, known places and whatnot. But it was always those little hole in the wall. Oh yeah, we heard that place is haunted, but you never heard of it before. That was really something else, And then when I got done with all that fun and then finally kind of settled, that's when we really started putting in time to help others.
So, yeah, when you talk about people and different experiences, and that's the great thing, we've been together since high school, but she's always had, experiences and, not having that ability myself, you always kind of look and like, it could be this, it could be that, or whatever, you play it off. But, now that we've been, for just about 3 years now, and, even this weekend we were down at Tala and, having some experiences. I mean, I had experienced that, I think, because you start to become more open to it. Mm-hmm. And, I saw, have you ever been to Tala?
No, I haven't. I know where you're at, but no, I haven't.
So we were in the children's ward, and it was just a whole sequence of events. We heard shuffling at the end of the hallway, which would mimic, a patient kind of shuffling, that mental state or whatever. Then I see a shadow figure kind of play peekaboo with me, and I had to double take. And then meanwhile, we had tripwires lying down the hallway. From there came from the hallway where I saw the shadow figure down the hallway towards us, lit up the whole row of tripwires. And then I seen like a shadow figure fly back over. I'm pretty sure it was a bat.
It was a bat.
It was a bat.
It was a bat.
It looked like a bat. I'm pretty sure it was a bat.
It was a bat.
But just like for that. So like me personally, I'm opening up a little bit more, but she's been, what did you say? I mean, what experience you?
I don't know. Something was chasing us out, and then I was trying to get out through a door. But the door was locked. Little did I know, I just had to go to the left, to the door to the left. I was able to get out, but I'm like, I can't.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with
at the end of the night.
Yeah, that's something I just, we have a house that we sell tickets and take people out on investigations with work. Right. And we had some people this weekend that, she was definitely I don't know if it was his wife or girlfriend, but she was definitely sensitive to things. And there was one point in time that she said, I need to leave. I just need to go outside. And, he's like not wanting to because he wanted to continue to, and I was like, no, she's listening to herself. And I think a lot of people try to, there's nothing wrong with taking off, running, nothing, screaming even. I heard you said, nothing wrong with that.
I was walking really fast and I kept turning around, looking over my shoulder like, God, I hope I don't turn around and see something there.
Right.
And you were just moseying behind me.
I'm like, I'm like,
no, go quicker.
I'm like, where's the fire? Where's the fire? She's like, come on, let's get out of here.
Something's behind
me. And we were heading out. It was the end of the evening. So like at that point, it's like 4:00 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. Like you're
mentally done.
You're mentally kind of getting drained and you're a little bit susceptible, a little drained a little bit. And she was done. I was done. We were both ready. So
and that's where you got to watch it, man. When you get to that point, you're very open. And I've seen some people, I myself have been pushed and scratched and stuff like that. And I keep thinking about most of the time that's happened. I don't always think like the scratching is bad. I think sometimes that is, I think it depends on where you're at. Sometimes that might be the only way they could communicate, something like,
Yep.
like Pinhurst, Pinhurst, I got scratched one time just on the arm. And, I didn't take off and throw holy water over myself and stuff like that, I mean, I did cleanse, I always cleanse before I leave anywhere, but, I thought more of, those kids, some of them couldn't even hardly move, so, and they couldn't talk either. So that might've been their way of just letting us know, that they were there, and I didn't have any kind of ill, I didn't feel sick or kind of anything funky or anything like that. So, I mean, I took a break for a couple seconds or minutes and went back but I always, know when I get to that point, it's time to go. It's like,
absolutely.
And that's a big ground rule for my team is before we even go investigate somewhere, I will tell them if you're having a bad day, you don't feel well, even health wise, like you feel like you got, a cold that's kind of got you down or something like that, or if you're arguing with your spouse or anything like that, I'm like, we have however long he allows us to be here to go on other investigations. Don't go somewhere and put yourself in the risk of something attaching. Because,
right. Yep, absolutely. So let's take a little step back. So before we get into, because I have a couple topics, I have a couple questions that we want to kind of, because we've had some good conversations. We got a good one that we're going to talk about in a few. But so just, so Vapor, you started down in Virginia. So how many members do you have in Gettysburg? I know you're in Gettysburg.
Yeah, I still got guys down in Virginia that go out under that name. Okay. There's 4 of them down there. And then now I'm up to about 7 or 8 here.
Okay.
At Gettysburg. Like I pretty much picked up everybody that I work, that's my employees. And they were the ones that come up with the idea. Why don't you start a chapter up here?
Awesome.
And I'm like, might do that because I was traveling back to Virginia, but we cover, I've been all the way down to South Carolina with the team before. But also Jeremy Leonard, I work for his Cajun ministry. So whenever there's something up this way that it's something like that, I go and try to take care of that. So there's a couple guys that are outside of Vapor that I, but I do work with everybody. I mean, I enjoy going out. So
which leads me to the next. So you're the manager for Go City Tours, and if anybody's ever been to Gettysburg, you're right there in the heart of in town there. So when they come through, I'm sure they've done your tours. Anybody's been on the tours, they're great tours. But anybody that comes through, they're gonna, I'm sure, cross your path if they're coming through, especially just in that right by Lincoln Square there, right? What's the Lincoln Inn, right? It's the Lincoln Inn right there next to your to Go City Tours.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, but so just kind of give a little quick synopsis of what what Go City Tours. What's your daily process?
God. Just throw it in a hat and see what happens. But no, Tim Nealon that owns Go City Tours grew up around the Gettysburg area. He ended up we've got 26 other locations across the United States, but it's like working for your family. I mean, it's not. I mean, there's times that you got to do the corporate thing, but he hates the word corporate. So, But we have the 3 stores that are like mine. The rest are kind of like little kiosks or meet your guide somewhere. And so I take a lot of pride in the fact that, I get that he's trusted me with one of the 3. And, my daily routine, I'm now the general manager. So I take care of the tours. I used to be just the retail side of things that kind of just helped out if they needed, something on the tour side of things. But now I'm over top of all of it. So my day gets busy with meetings about 9 o'clock in the morning, and somewhere around noon I get a little bit of a break, and that's when I try to go ground out on the battlefield somewhere and
It's a good, peaceful place to do it.
I really do. Yep. And, so my days, helping customers, obviously coming in, I schedule tours out about a month out, the guides that are going to be on it. And, it's pretty much just taking care of all that, making sure people are showing up. I have a great crew there, which makes it even better. But the nicest thing is I get to talk paranormal about 80% of the day, because people are coming in, and I always got somebody bringing somebody back to my office, here, ask Andy. And it's like, so I'll talk to people, and it's nice. It kind of got me out. I used to be somewhat a little quiet, and that kind of paranormal kind of pushed me to, get out of my shell a little bit. And, so now some people don't think I shut up, but, but it's like, it's like I said, it's the first time that I can remember, other than playing music full time, is actually going to work and looking forward to it. Like it's not it's a job. It can get
a job, but it's not a job.
Yeah, it could get pretty stressful sometimes, but
understandable. Yep.
But the thing is, I love seeing people enjoy themselves too, having their own experiences. The best is seeing the skeptics that stand there for about a half an hour and talk crap about, they don't believe anything. And then you see them coming back from the tour.
Right.
And I was like, how'd it go? And they'll come in and shut my door behind them and start showing me what's in this picture here, and stuff like that. But,
what's this sound? What's this sound? They did an EVP or, recording, and they're like, what the heck?
Well, it's like we have an all ages tour and an all adult tour, or adult only tour.
Right.
And the adult only one kind of goes off the beaten path. And there's a spot that I don't want to ruin anything in case somebody goes on it, but we tell it's like 70% history, 30% paranormal, but it all depends on who you have in your group, the guide, stuff like that. But I have a woman that works for me who I'm very close with, and one of her stops is a place that they were doing amputations and throwing them out the window. And they were literally paying the kids in the neighborhood, like, I don't know how much, but they were paying them, I'm sure, like a half a cent or something like that to load parts onto wagons.
Wow.
And not enough.
And that right. And that place was also, prior to becoming, the place that they were doing that at, was a school. So kids were there, and, but anyway, she has a lot of experiences where she feels tugging on the bottom of her, dress, because most of my guys dress in like a period outfit. And, but yeah, so people will be standing there watching her, and they literally see her dress kind of getting yanked on. And, the only way I could explain it is I really think that it's because she, works 5-6 days a week, and she loves her job, and she's walking through there, every night. And I think they've gotten used to her, and maybe even hear that she's recognized them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so, but definitely the tours are, they're fun, but they can get, most people come back and they really have enjoyed it. We've gotten a lot of awards, which is just amazing, because you have a little bit of competition in Gettysburg.
Oh, no, you're not the only show in town, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And most of them are, I network with quite a few of them. That's what we decided at the beginning, that, we wanted to not be against people, like we do all outside tour walking, and then you have like Farnsworth or Ghostly Images who are doing, the orphanage and Jenny Wade house. So if somebody wants to go inside that may not be as mobile to be able to walk, why not send them there? That's the whole point, is you want them to come back to Gettysburg anyway,
Right. Yep.
And nowhere you're going to go in Gettysburg, you probably won't, if you're open to it, you're going to probably have some kind of a weird experience at some point,
So Mr. Allgood has a great question. What is the most common evidence caught at your location during the tours?
A lot of shadow people, like a lot of pictures. Actually, probably the most evidence, the courthouse, that if you know where the Thaddeus Stevens, if you know where that statue is.
Yep.
The building that sits right beside it's the courthouse. And there's not many times that people take a picture of that building that you don't get something in the window or some kind of weird like colored light inside of it that shouldn't be there, stuff like that. So that's always where people, that's the most of the pictures that I have hanging on the wall where customers will come in and stuff like that are from there. And that was it was a Confederate hospital that turned into one. But also you got the energy of people that lost their freedom when they went before the judge there and stuff like that. I talked to the workers there one time, and the woman told me that she said nobody leaves here. Not one of us stay alone here. She said we all leave. Even together. She said, how did she say it? Each week there's a designated person. They literally have this on the schedule that stays until everybody's done and walks out with the last person.
Oh, okay. They're not alone.
So at least a couple people walking together.
Yeah. Nobody stays there by themselves. She even stands outside and waits until somebody gets there in the morning so they can open up the door together. And I asked her why, and she was like, there's definitely, she said, before I came to work here, she said, you know, I wasn't pushing the possibility of paranormal or any kind of activity happening. She said, but I'd never had anything really go down. But she said, once I started working there, she said it was about 3 or 4 days into it that she was there and walked into one of the older courtrooms to put some papers or something up on the desk. And she said, as she's walking out, she heard the gavel smack.
Oh, geez.
And there was nobody in there, you know.
That's a little unnerving.
Yeah. And she said, and then after that, it was footsteps. She said they get that a lot in there, like where you'll hear somebody walking down the hall and wait, they're getting ready to come around the corner. You're going to see who it is, and nobody ever comes around the corner. Yeah. I have that in my store now. A lot.
Do?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
In the back?
In the back area or just throughout the whole store?
So that's where you guys been. So, you know, back there where we were sitting at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's another room where the back door from the parking lot in the back comes through.
Right.
And then there's another door that comes into the room that we were in.
Right.
And so it always seems like it's back there in that very back room. Like you can hear almost like somebody's messing with the mop bucket, stuff like that.
Right.
But I've had plenty of times that walking, like you could hear somebody walking. And yeah, I had a customer about a week ago, I guess it was standing there, and I was giving them the spill on tours. And all of a sudden you just heard somebody run up, like, you know, right up beside me. And the guy stopped. He's like, he just kept looking at me, and he's like, did you hear that? And I said, oh yeah. You know, I've tried to blow it off. Like, I mean, like it wasn't that, but you're sitting there the whole time like, holy crap. Yeah.
Like there's nothing's there.
But then we also have the haunted objects in that one room, and we've added to that.
Yeah.
So we have a piano in there now. And the piano definitely, something strikes keys on that a couple times throughout the day, especially at night when the guides get back.
Right.
And they let themselves in. We're already closed, and they go in and change back into the regular clothes. And the one that gets tugged on by the kids all the time, she's usually the last one. And I get a phone call from her, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, just kind of like talk to me type of deal, you know what I mean? Until she could get out of the place. Now she's open to it.
Right.
Yeah, she's pretty open to it. And I'm taking her to Penhurst Paracon here.
Oh, nice.
We'll be there.
We'll see you.
Yep. So she's going to get kind of a dose of the real deal. You know what I'm saying? When we go
there.
But
she wants.
Carmela's got the phone.
Carmela's got a question.
The phone that you have.
Sure.
What happened with it? Does it ring?
What's that?
Your phone, the phone.
In the
It
shop.
has not yet. It has not rang yet. We all the time ask. Now, we did have something weird happen with that phone. I bought a table, like just a little bitty, like Victorian, it came out of a old house. Somebody worked for me. They were renovating a house from like 1832 or something, somewhere around that. That come out of one of the rooms, and she wanted to. At one point in time, we were trying to go maybe a Victorian theme in the store, and so she brought that in. And she was like, "You think the store would want this?" I was like, "Sure." And I set the phone on it, And 2-3 days after that, we came into work. I opened up, but I didn't walk back to that area. And then the person that was there with me opening up or came in right behind me, they went to the restroom, and she's like, "Oh, ha ha." And I said, "What?" And she was like, "The phone sitting in the middle of the floor, And sure enough, man, the table was still sitting straight up, but the phone was sitting right dead in the middle of the carpet.
Oh, shit.
And so I kind of, to be honest with you, got a little frustrated with the two guides. I thought that would, could have been when they came back after we were closed. And I was like, because it really bothered my worker. Like, she didn't want to work.
Were they being pranksters, kind of saying, "Oh, we're going to let's have a little fun."
And I know one of them I trust that they wouldn't, fib to me. But the other one, I could tell him looking at me that he was telling the truth. Right. So we kind of just put it back on the, I literally, when I walk in the mornings, I say good morning to whoever, whatever, we got a doll in there that we took out of a house, and I always say he's got the name Bob now. Some people have, some people, like I had different people throughout the field, man, that come in and visit that are, gifted. And 2 or 3 different times, I know Kelly Miller said something about Bob one time when she was in there, like, "Who's Bob?" And I was like, but didn't say nothing because nobody had ever said that prior to that. And then I had when Chip Coffey was in town, he stopped in, and we were walking around, and he walked in and he said, "Oh my," and he's looking at the and he says, "Bob, huh?" Like that. So that was twice that somebody said Bob, and neither one of them had talked to one another or anything. So that's where Bob got his name at. But we just hear weird shit out of that room, and you're not thinking, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So
it's weird what stuff happens.
That's weird stuff. No. Hey, Everett, how are you? So first of all, we appreciate you watching last week's episode, but my question is, how many margaritas have you had today that you lost track of what time it was? But no, seriously, thanks for watching last week's episode, Everett. So, all right, let's go. So I was scrolling through Facebook last night. We were just before bed, and I just happened, it happened like it just perfect timing. Andy's live now, and so you had a little experience last night. What were you? So you just happened to go outside, or no? So go ahead, tell the story. So you had an experience last night.
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends that are into the UFO, phenomenon, stuff like that. And actually, one of them that's on my team, he's really been diving deep into it. And so out there with the house that we investigate at with work, we have a big field beside us that's part of the area we investigate. So him and I have been out there a couple of times, just kind of sitting on lawn chairs and looking, and I find it. I actually had an experience when I was younger with something that I couldn't deny. That was definitely something, but not on my, like, once again, wasn't thinking about nothing, and I just kind of noticed this on the way home. I live on the opposite side of South Mountain from Gettysburg, so I have to go up over the mountain to go home, and I noticed this thing in the air that was like purple, blue, yellow. It was like different colors. It's like, that's kind of weird. And the more I drove and I would glance in open areas, I would still see it like still there. And I was like, so it kind of got my attention. I got home and I live, right off you know, I kind of live above. I'm on a hill, and I was up on, you know, so I came up on my back porch and looked, and sure enough, it was still right there. But the thing was, it was emitting the clouds were kind of around it at that time, so the colors were bouncing off of the clouds.
Right.
And that's what I was trying. I went on the live for, was to hope to get that, but the clouds had done kind of moved on. But you know, I've never seen anything like that. Like, it sat there. I mean, I was on the live for, I think, an hour and 14 minutes.
Yeah, you were. You're on, and it stayed in position. It was pulsating, kind of different colors. You know, we saw a couple. A couple people that were, viewing, that were watching with you.
Yeah.
You could see when the flashing red light, when it was just a solid, the plane going by, and it's like, all right, hey, there's a light. And then then there was another one that appeared kind of up to, I think it was the upper left of where it was, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was.
What was really weird is when I got out my flashlight, because my laser pen was dead, and so I got out my flashlight and it has that strobe effect on it.
Right.
And so I, did, well, I don't know if you heard me, I was shining the light and hitting the neighbors.
Waking the neighbors up.
Yeah.
I was getting ready for the cops to show up and say, come on, man, what you doing?
You're not the only one. What's funny, my one neighbor behind me, he is actually a Battlefield park guide. And well, he's moved from that up to park ranger now. And he had pulled in roughly probably 5 minutes after I did. And I pointed it out to him, and he was out there most of the time that I was on the live. He was on his porch watching it too. So when I got done, him and I talked, and he's like, I've never seen anything. And he was trying to find, yeah, right. That's why last night everybody kept saying, do this, do that. And I'm like, okay. I kept thinking of Independence Day. So hold on, do I want to really get their attention, or, just watch from a distance?
And I know you said your phone was going to die. And then we were like, I was like, hopefully when you pulled out the flashlight, and was like, hopefully they don't come and like beam you up if it is a UFO or something like that. Where if it's like, all right, listen, did the phone die? Did Andy, did the battery die? Or did Andy get abducted?
Well, yeah, right. I was lucky. I still had my battery pack I use for my camera when I'm investigating. And I had like 6% left on it. So that's what got us through the whole live when I was on there. That's the only thing that saved us. But no, but I don't know if you guys noticed when I was doing the strobe the first time, it wasn't right to the left of it, not what the other one that we saw, but kind of directly to the left of it was this weird white light, bright. Like it just like it almost peered out of the clouds for a couple seconds and back in. So I've watched most of the live that I did last night with people there at work, and we were trying to look at it, and we all saw that light too. And that was probably the weirdest part of all of it. Was like, I'm not saying it was responded to what I was doing, but it just happened. It was just weird that it happened. Hey, Susan. Yeah.
So Whitney wants to know, did you ever, because I know before the show you were talking, you reached out, or you kind of did a little research. Did you any other people report it or find any possibly of what it was?
I called one. Well, what was weird is after I got off the phone, I think cloud cover, it either took off or cloud cover, but we couldn't see anything again. But roughly right after that, I was kind of gathering my stuff and putting it back into my book bag. And it had to be fighter jets, because, it wasn't regular, commercial jets, went flying by, and right to the same, like two of them right in the same area. And I mean, I didn't see them like slow down or do anything weird. They just, Right. So that got me thinking. And then some people were like, well, you can call these numbers. The guy at work that is into it, he said, yeah, you can call these numbers, these, civilian numbers. I forget what he called it. But anyway, looked it up, and I called Camp Hill. Well, the first one I called was a small, I think they're National Guard, Air National Guard. Called there and asked them, and the guy kind of chuckled, and he was like, well, to be honest with you, there's only like 3 of us right here, all the time. And he was like, and that late at night, we weren't,
Right.
And But then when I called Camp Hill to the base over that way, that guy said, well, he said, we were not doing any kind of demonstrations or any kind of, practicing. He said, and you're one of a few that's called about this already. And that's all he said. He didn't tell me how many.
That was it. That was enough.
Yeah. And then we were checking out, every video we could watch when I had a couple seconds, and we had a guy say that it was called a plasmoid is what they call them. So I looked it up, and but it's more like that more looked like it was morphing into something, it had the colors, but right. I mean, it could have been, I couldn't tell the shape of it from, as far away as I was, but it was definitely, it couldn't have been a drone. It couldn't have been a drone because it was a pretty good distance away. So, I mean, unless it was a huge one, it wasn't any kind of signage or anything like that. I mean, I ran every scenario practically through, thought process of like trying to make some logical. And, but looking online, I did find a couple, one of them was in like North Carolina, that a guy caught something really similar to it, but he had gotten a close-up of it, and it was definitely the old school flying saucer kind of look to it. But the thing is, it had those same lights, man, the way they were, really, kind of, it was almost like what I could see with the naked eye last night was just like, I don't want to say that the lights were going in a circular motion. I mean, that might be all just my brain trying to, play, right. But
and it being so far away, it was like pulsating, because that's at least that's how it's coming across on the video.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was doing. But it was like the lights never, like one didn't cut off and another one cut on. It was like it would just bleed right into the other color. Yeah.
I'll be honest. What made me think of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When they, when they're doing the communication with the light and the boop 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 boop. The big ass giant screen during the movie trying to communicate or whatever. That's kind of what those colors reminded me of, personally.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I did hear me last night doing the now that's but yeah, it was like, I don't know. I mean, at first I was excited, what I'm saying, to be able to see something and the possibility, but then it got kind of weird, like, what if? And I mean, I'm not saying there's anybody I'm not saying that they're, that they got to be threatening in any way,
Right.
But still, the unknown is never comfortable. So, but yeah, I went back out roughly probably 15 minutes after, I went off the live and looked again, but the clouds had moved in. And right before.
After I actually went outside to, I think when you switched off or whatever, and then you came back on, I had gone out front, because the front of our house kind of faced to that northwest, and I went to go just kind of take a gander to see if I could see anything. I know. Listen, you're a couple hours away from you, but you never know that high in the atmosphere or whatever. But yeah, it was we were clouded in, so we didn't see anything. So
what do you mean? What else could stay up there for an hour? Like it just stayed there for an hour.
Yeah, that's what was weird. It's like, right. If it was any kind, because I couldn't see like a beam coming up that would have been like something, I've thought everything I could possibly think, that it could be maybe a balloon, with a light on it or something, that a car lot or somebody was flying and it looked further. Maybe it was closer than what I thought, but, the lights of Chambersburg, which I did find out that's what it was, with them in the background, it helped me to be able to show people that I wasn't moving the phone whatsoever. And I had an experience. My son's 25 now, and he was maybe 12 or 13. No, he's probably about 12. And he played midget football. And we were coming back from a practice one night outside of Winchester.
Right.
And we had a back road that we would take that kind of took us through some farm country, and some people were pulled over, and I pulled up and they were looking up, and I got out and we're looking, and wasn't the same as what I saw, last night, but this was definitely one big, huge one with like 3 or 4 little ones kind of flying around it, you know, and but what was even scarier was getting home, and I could still see part of it from where I lived at. And all of a sudden, like, you know what a shooting star looks like when it's coming down, like real quick. This thing took off like that and went up. And like, it was like a good dozen of us saw that. And man, everybody just scattered. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, nope, not staying.
Not yet. Nope, time to go. Bye-bye.
Gotta go.
I gotta go check I gotta go cook dinner. I'll see you later.
Yeah. And you remember that Mel Gibson movie Signs? It had just came out not a couple months prior. And the kids watched it at the house and were so scared, man, because they were young. So when I went in, I couldn't find him, you know, and he was in the bathroom and inside the shower with everything shut, you know, lights off and everything. I said, why'd you pick the shower? So he was kind of, at least I knew.
Maybe they don't like water. I would have turned the water on, and maybe that, you know, it's like a repellent.
Well, you told me in case of emergency, a bathtub wasn't a bad place to go. And I was like, that's for storms, but I'm not too sure.
We don't know.
You don't know until you try or you come across that situation, right?
Yeah, but and that's all I could talk about for a couple of days was that movie and that, you know, I had to almost become an issue there for a little bit, but it's just freaky. It's not, you know, as much like scared to death type of deal. I'm sure for somebody young it is. But like last night, it's not an uneasy feeling that you can't deal with, but it's still in the back of your head, like, you know, what if that's because I still, you know, I'm going to keep an eye out because I always look up and look around because I love the fact that I live, you know, I grew up in the country where I could literally see the Milky Way and stuff like that. And then I moved to, you know, Winchester where it was brighter, and I never had never really realized how much you're missing until you miss it.
Man, absolutely.
I get home.
Yeah, no, we love being out, and you know, I'm a stargazer, guys. I like going up, watching the satellites go by, and just sitting out there, and it's pretty cool watching the International Space Station and stuff. And then it's interesting, man. There's sometimes it's like, all right, yeah, and then there's some that have been like, that's. Yeah, I don't know if that's a satellite or not, but
he said tinfoil on your head.
Tinfoil. Who's wearing tinfoil? So, Andy, we're kind of getting near the end of the show. We could talk. We could talk for hours. I know.
You knew we could. Right.
But we're definitely going to have you back on again. But before we kind of finish up and have you kind of, just talk about your locations, how people can find you and stuff like that. So I know you got one new location, and we apologize. That's our dog.
Sorry for the dog.
Sorry, that's our puppy dog. Somebody must be barked outside the house. Lacey.
TJ's outside.
You didn't see mine attacking me. I was pushing him away there a while ago.
So you got a new location, right, out there that you are. Tell us a little bit about it.
So you can definitely come see us there. You see me and most everybody, like I said, that works there with me inside the branch is part of Vapor. We're kind of working on another website. Biggest thing is you can follow us on TikTok, Vapor, Paranormal. Most of the stuff right now, until we get a page really started, is follow me. I'm usually putting stuff up. I've been working with Brandon Alvis some. Working with him. He's got Haunted Discoveries. A couple ideas. We bounce back and forth with each other. He's got a new place now that's Civil War related, that he's in. And I'm looking at a place right now that was a hospital, a pretty well-known hospital, and might have the opportunity to open up something there for people to be able to investigate and stuff like that. Mr. Hawes, he comes around a lot. So Jason and I, we've done the Lincoln Inn, and I'd really like to push people, man, that are really interested in paranormal. They should really check out the Lincoln Inn right beside us, because
I want to do it.
We want to do it. We got to reach out because we haven't been out there, and we want to get. I know we're coming out for the Battlefield Bash and stuff, but
let me know, because
we want to try and maybe get out there before that. But we'll definitely get in touch because I know she wants to stay at the Lincoln Inn because we
Yeah,
watched Jason. We saw you were on there with him and it was Jason Hawes and JV Johnson. So I actually had the opportunity to investigate with JV.
JV's good, man.
Up at Bailey Seton Hospital in New York, and I was, about a year and a half ago or whatever, and I was fortunate to get invited to go along with that stuff. But that was a cool place.
Yeah.
And
but yeah, Lincoln Inn, if you do, let me know because I'm very close with the owners. They're very younger, our age type, but very open to the paranormal. I mean, the place was used as a morgue during the battle.
Ooh,
yeah, and so they have been thinking about maybe pushing a little bit more paranormal.
Right.
So so I would say anybody, we'll talk about it. What kind of rooms they got. But yeah, you can always come by there, or if you really want to get a hold of us, it's just my real paranormal, all one word, at gmail.com. So it's www.myrealparanormal@gmail.com. Hit me up on Messenger. But like I said, I'm putting things together now, kind of what I've done, the projects, speaking at a few places. Beth O'Brien's going to have me as a special guest investigator at the place that she looks over, and I cannot remember the name of it. And
one of the
Beth O'Brien, West Hill.
That's it.
That's 10 minutes from our house. So if you're gonna,
I heard
right around the corner. So if you're gonna, let us know when you're gonna be there because we'll definitely
come.
Well, she threw me a couple dates out. And people can come in. We still have the house there at on Knoxland Ridge, which is the house that we rent, to do investigations at. And it's shown its true colors here the last couple months, man. I think the more we go in, the more it pushes.
You get activity starts to take off. Absolutely.
Find me at Ghost City Tours. That's where we're usually at. And, we'll be at the Bash ourselves with the table this year. So, Pam and Steve are close friends of mine. And if I'm not at the Ghost City Tours, I'm usually at the Hoover House with them. So,
but
yeah, usually just, hit me up on Messenger. I'm always looking at that. And, like I said, I'll throw out, we have a Vapor Facebook page, but it's all over the place.
It's all now. In the we'll put it in the links in the comments and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
On Facebook, it's on the Stay Haunted page and stuff like that. So we'll drop it. But
and I'm available for lectures or any kind of speaking. I'm starting to do that again, which I love doing. So
very good.
Not afraid to travel to do it.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome. Once again, Andy, thank you very much. That's going to do it for our show this evening. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. We really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for sharing your insight, your stories, your background, your history. And if you ever get a chance to get to Gettysburg and want to walk in the footsteps of the restless spirits, check out Ghost City Tours. They'll show you why history never truly sleeps. Remember, the veil between the worlds is thin, and curiosity is the key that keeps it open.
That's it.
So keep your senses sharp, your light on low, and your mind wide open. Until we see you next week, stay curious, stay brave.
Thank you, guys.
Most of all, stay haunted. Thanks for everybody showing in. Everybody in chat, have a great night. See you soon. See you next week.
Night.